Hi, welcome to my show, Math, Science, and Ethical Living in Manhattan. In Queens, it's Prosper through Sane Economics. And in Brooklyn, it's Ethical Social Networking. So I'd like to see all the citizens united behind economic justice. Economic justice. Giving everyone a fair opportunity to live a decent life. Not only in America, but throughout the world. And to do this, very simple idea is to have an adjustment in income. Most of the income is going to the top 10%. Top 1% is getting 23% of all the income. So Robert Reich, in this book, Aftershock, promotes this idea for U.S. workers who work full-time. They will get $600 billion. Where from? From the top 5% of high-income earners. And that will be shifted to the bottom 95% for those who work full-time. I don't agree with that idea. I think that is too much money to give to full-time workers. I still agree with the idea of shifting $600 billion from the top 5% of high-income earners, but half of it is enough to go to the full-time workers, and the other half should go to the poor, sick, and needy. Now, with $100 billion every year, we can build 1 million single-room occupancies, decent rooms for people who are homeless. That's 1 million every year. $100 billion a year. And with the other $200 billion, we can do a lot. We can build, my idea is a vision to have 10 new cities built on the Great Plains or elsewhere, maybe near the Great Lakes, to get the water for the cities. So right now, our wind energy is at maximum capacity. There are 10 companies. That's why I chose 10 cities. Each company can duplicate what they're doing. I was told by once a leader of one of those companies that it would cost $2 billion to duplicate all the, like to vertically integrate, to do everything. Some companies are horizontally integrated. They don't make all the parts for the windmills or generators. But okay, it would take $2 billion. Let's say it took $5 billion. That means it would take $50 billion of the $300 billion to duplicate the companies one time. And the next year they could start duplicating a second time. And before you know it, in 10 years, we could have all our electricity from the Great Plains and build all the infrastructures needed to deliver that electricity. We can get rid of coal, which makes half of our electricity, but it requires an enormous investment. And the money is there in the pockets of those who have high income. And they're not going to feel it that much. They'll be doing a good deed to re-educate, retrain the workers. And not only the workers who are unemployed, but the prisoners who are nonviolent could move to these 10 cities that could be located somewhere in America where they have enough water. And each year, if you divide, I estimate it would cost $100,000 for a room, more than a room, but with a bathroom and kitchen, and another $100,000 for paying the people, another $100 to build the infrastructure. So with $300,000 divided into $300 billion, that's 1 million people every year. In 10 years, you're going to have 10 million people being trained in the solar future, trained in all the skills, not only to make wind energy, but to make all other types of renewable energy, and to learn how to make houses more efficient. So the homeless can be trained, the nonviolent prisoners can be trained, and the unemployed can be trained, as well as students. And this could be a wonderful public works project like they had in the past during the tough years of the Depression in the 1930s. Public works project to build cities of the future that will be making our renewable energy needs to fulfill, to replace coal, oil, and natural gas. But it requires a huge investment, and the money is in the income. But that's only one issue. Income, tax, on the people who earn more than $160,000 a year, roughly. And I have another idea, besides not to even take a penny away, to build these cities. But another idea is to mandate that the top 5%, even up to 10%, weatherize their homes so heat doesn't leak out in the winter or leak in the summer. Retrofitting homes. There's over 70 million single-family homes that have to be retrofit. So the people who have the money ought to do it, and they would eventually get their money back. In 5 years, or 10 years, even 15 years is a reasonable investment to get your money back from the investment of weatherizing the home. And in addition, those in the top 5–10% should solarize their homes, put solar cells to make electricity from the sunlight, to make hot water from the sunlight, to make heat from the sunlight. And then we could develop a hydrogen economy, and the homes can have fuel cells that would take the hydrogen into the fuel cell and make pure water and electricity when the sun's not shining. And the rich got huge grounds. They could put in pipes 10 to 12 feet down and connect these pipes to a heat pump They can make heat in the winter and cool in the summer. From the difference in temperature, it's about 10 to 12 feet down, it's always around 50 or 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So in the summer, the heat, when it gets 80, 90 degrees, the difference in temperature can make cool. In the winter, 50 degrees, 40 degrees, and 0 degrees Fahrenheit, you can make heat from a heat pump. And according to Stephen Chu, our Secretary of Energy, this is currently viable to do. So this money that's going to be mandated, in other words, on the top 5% there would be about $300 billion. On the top 10% it would be $500 billion. Imagine what you could do every year. And then all the other homes that need weatherization, on those who have less resources to invest, the rich can invest in these other homes to weatherize them and share in the energy savings. 50-50, or they can maybe get 70-30 they might like return for their investment in energy savings. And then in addition to solarizing, geothermalizing, hydrogen fuel cells, battery storage of electricity, or send it back to the grid and get payment for that. In addition to that, the excess funds, this enormous amount of money, from the top 5%, $300 billion a year, from the top 10%, $500 billion a year, from a 10% pre-tax on their income without taking a penny away. And the excess money from the enormous incomes of some should go to invest in small, renewable, solar energy type businesses. And they might make a fortune by investing wisely. They're speculating wildly now. They brought us into this past current ongoing recession. So those are two ideas. Robert Reich's idea is to shift income through taxes, raising taxes on the top 5%, to shift this money to the bottom 95%, but I say only half, and the other half to build cities that are renewable energy based. These cities every year, you can start out with 10 cities of 100,000 each. Next year you can double that, 100,000 every year in 10 cities. So in 10 years you'd have 10 million people, 1 million in every city. People who need jobs, students, prisoners, and the unemployed and the homeless all could be being educated in how to build the future type cities from scratch. So that's my vision. Okay, so at least Robert Reich's idea, if you don't like my vision, makes sense, except to give half to the full-time workers and the other half to the poor, sick, and needy by building these cities. Okay, that's on income. But then we have pollution. When you don't want something, we don't want pollution, especially pollution that could destroy so much of this world by raising the water of the oceans 20 feet, 30 feet, even more. Talk about 20 meters, 60 feet. We don't want that. So we got to tax carbon products, which are coal, oil, and natural gas. We got to tax them out of existence. And by taxing them, then the renewable energy the solar energy will become extremely more competitive than the fossil fuels that are currently destroying our ecosystem. Now, Robert Reich, part of his program, wants to get another $210 billion the first year by a tax on a $35 tax on a metric ton of carbon dioxide, which would bring in $210 billion the first year. He wants to give it to various programs. But James Hansen, who was the director, the head of the NASA Goddard Space Center, and also a professor at Columbia, he wants to share it equally among all the citizens. So if you divide 300 million into $210 billion from the first year tax, everybody would get $700. And the students, instead of getting, there are 53 million students from K to 12, K to 12, which is about from what, grade from 5 to age 17 or 18. There are 53 million students. Each one of them could get a laptop computer the first year with high-end programs inside from Microsoft. And that is from a carbon tax. And in 4 years, the tax will be raised. So Reich, Robert Reich, who was Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton and is currently a professor of public policy at the University of California, Berkeley, wants to, he says, when the tax is raised to $115 a metric ton of carbon dioxide from the burning of fossil fuels, the amount of money we'll have from that tax in 4 years will be $600 billion. If you divide that by 300 million Americans, you would get each person getting $2,000 per person. So a family of 4 would be getting $8,000 in the 4th year. And renewable energy will be much more competitive, so we can leave the coal in the ground, which is extremely dangerous. It spews out mercury, leaves behind an ash, which turns into a sludge that last year escaped in one area and destroyed the water tables. But you're eating fish. And where did the mercury come from in the fish? From the coal companies spewing out their waste, in addition to the carbon dioxide. And then we're also breathing in this stuff. It's in the ash. Okay, so we can get rid of coal. We can make all our electricity from wind power on the Great Plains. There's any 4 states of the 5 that can make all the electricity we need. If we would just increase the, there are 10 companies making the wind power, so we got to increase them, make them duplicate themselves, then reduplicate themselves until we can have enough wind energy to supply all our electricity. It's doable if we invest the money, and the money's there. And that's only from income. So there's 2 types of income, ways of handling income. One is to tax it, and the other is to mandate it. And the mandating part will be to fix up the homes and invest in renewable energy small businesses and all kinds of products for the wealthy. Okay, that's on income. Now I talked about our carbon tax. Oh, you don't want something, you tax it out of existence. That's what we should do with pollution. And the worst pollution right now is the carbon dioxide that is going to destroy the planet in many different ways. Okay, and the third issue on economic justice is wealth. We can have a wealth tax. When Reagan got into office, our national debt was under $1 trillion. You can look all this up in the World Almanac. The figures are there. When he left office, the national debt was almost $3 trillion. So he increased it almost by $2 trillion, the national debt. And if you look up the Survey of Consumer Finances, which every 3 years, they survey how the wealth is distributed in this country, who has how much. Well, in those years under Reagan, I don't have the exact figures in my head. I looked it up a long time ago, so I have to re-look it up again to get more exact. But the $2 trillion that increased our national debt under Reagan, the rich increased their wealth. They were able to by over $2 trillion, my memory. But even more recently, I have the exact figures, which I could show you. From 97, or 98 I should say, to 2007, 9 years, the top 10% of high-income earners, families, earned $21 trillion. Or if you divide by 9, that's $2.33 trillion every year on average for 9 years. If they only earned $1.33 trillion, okay, for those 9 years, that means they could have paid off our national debt in 2007, which was $9 trillion. You know, $1 trillion a year for 9 years is $9 trillion, and they still would have had $1.33 trillion in their pockets. To put it in more concrete terms, I have a sign that I made, which I can pull it out maybe. Here's a sign about the wealth. And it's hard to understand in terms of aggregates. What does $2.33 trillion mean every year? Here's what it means. It means that the top 1% gained a net gain for each family a year. They gained almost $1 million every year for 9 years. And the next 9% gained $150,000 a year for 9 years, which is almost $1 million over those 9 years. Money they put in their pocket, in other words. Or if we just take the average of those two, it's $200,000 a year for the top 10%. Every year for 9 years, that's $1.8 million per family on average. But the bottom 90%, whatever they gained, which is very little, they gained $7,000 a year for 9 years. That's $63,000 over 9 years, $64,000. They lost it all in 2008. And currently, almost 2012 now, they've lost it all. They were at $18.4 trillion of our 90%. Now they're less than $12 trillion. The same they had in 1998. They had about 12 trillion. Now they got less than 12 trillion because all their value what they increased their wealth was in their homes, which has lost about 30% of its value. So, okay, talk about wealth. So I give you some perspective on the rich every year can easily be gaining over $2 trillion every year until the recession came. Okay, so my idea is they could have paid off the debt under Reagan. They hadn't, I don't know exactly what they gained, I have to look it up, but I'm very sure what they gained from 98 to 2007. They could have paid the debt off, $9 trillion, we'd be not being in debt, you know, if they paid the debt off. And they still would have made $1.33 trillion every year for 9 years, even paying off the debt. Instead, they made $2.33 trillion. Okay, so now they went from about $46 trillion. Currently, the figures won't be out till about March of 2000. Okay, you got to wind up. I got 3 minutes to wind up, or 4 minutes to wind up. Okay. Then I'm going to continue the show with Manhattan, and then I divide it into 2 parts for Brooklyn and 2 parts. I only have a half hour in Brooklyn, and only a half hour in Queens. And an hour in Manhattan, which I'll divide into 2 parts. Okay. So if you want to contact me, dkseed@gmail.com, and get an email back automatically on Robert Reich's ideas that I've modified. I give you his ideas and I give you the modification. You can send an email to at least 10 of your contacts, willing to do likewise, for economic justice. And if you want to help with my TV show, I'm looking for a soulmate. I'm looking for people to collaborate with. So if you're a parent, student, teacher, or the public, and you want to improve the curriculum in math and science and ethics, or you want a TV show, become a co-host, or I'd like to have a student come on the show and me educate that student for free, and therefore parents can see how to do it. So write me at dkc@gmail.com, and you'll get back automatically a leaflet on Robert Reich's idea, and also my idea of mandating, as well as taxing, without taking a penny away. You can write my box number, box 2866, New York, 10163, 10163. And we got about 2 minutes more. So what can I show you of value? We should learn to create a 110 Hunter Citizen network for economic justice. That's extremely important. These are my interests that I just put up. So write me at dkseed@gmail.com, and we get back a leaflet that you can send to your friends. Let's mobilize for economic justice. Let's unite for $300 or $500 billion yearly for solar energy. Okay. Hi. Welcome back to my show called in Brooklyn, Ethical Social Networking, and in Manhattan called Math, Science, and Ethical Living, and in Queens it's called Prosper Through Sane Economics. Prosper Through Sane Economics. Okay, maybe we should do some meditation. I meditate according to the instructions given by Sant Rajendra Singh, who is located at SOS.org. SOS stands for the Science of Spirituality. And they say, stay in your religion. Don't leave it. Just live up to it. Through meditation, get in touch. So the Science of Spirituality is headed by Sant Rajendra Singh. And there he is. He promotes treating everyone as a brother or sister. And that we should meditate every day, starting out gradually, 5 minutes and 5 minutes. There's a looking meditation and a listening meditation. And if you have problems because you're not, there's some people who say, I can't meditate, So just do a minute and a minute. But if you're normal, 5 and 5. Then you build up to 10 and 10. And then 15 and 15. But you don't go beyond a half hour until you become competent and are enjoying the meditations and getting control of your mind. And the most important thing beside meditating is selfless service. So we shouldn't hurt anybody's feelings ever. We've got to treat them with respect. And we should do service to earn a living by the sweat of our brow. And in addition, we should do selfless service without being concerned with any rewards, because it's the right thing to do to help those who are poor, sick, and needy. Be of some use in this world without being concerned for compensation, except maybe from the higher powers eventually. Okay, now, before we meditate, Sant Rajendra Singh will initiate people for free. No money's involved in helping others. But the requirements are that you have to become a vegetarian and not to eat meat, birds, or fish. Not to eat animals, in other words. Not to kill animals. To avoid recreational drugs, to avoid street drugs. Not to drink alcohol, because alcohol clouds the consciousness. And to work for your living. So those are the requirements of free initiation. And you can download videos and writings at sos.org. In Manhattan, every Saturday, they have free talk from 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at lunchtime. And then they have a free vegetarian lunch at 12:30 to 1:45 or to 1:45 p.m. And before they start the talk, from 10:30 to 11:30, they have a silent meditation. So they meet at 40 East 35th Street, between Park and Madison, closer to Park Avenue. When you face south or downtown, you're facing the church. To the right, there's a staircase that goes downstairs, and a room is rented there that has these functions. Okay. So the benefits of meditation. Then we're going to meditate after we go over the benefits. The benefits of meditation. Get inner peace. To quiet the mind. If you have inner peace, you'll spread out of peace. To achieve more, whether it's in school, or work, or on your own projects. And you get guidance, so you're not lost in going nowhere. You learn to get clear goals and to see ways to reach these goals through meditation. And the most important thing is to awaken true love. The people who have a near-death experience, about 10 to 15% of them had a high experience and claim that they were pulled through a tunnel of light, their consciousness, when they were lying sort of dead just for a little while. And this light that talked to them gave them a life review where they learned that the only thing that really matters is love. And in addition, gave them unconditional love, so much that they didn't want to come back. But they learned they had to. They were told they had to be revived by the wonders of medical science. And the Master claims that that's a low-level experience, that we don't have to go through a near-death experience to meet the radiant being. We can meet the radiant being through proper meditation and ethical living. Maybe I should put a sign up on ethical living before we meditate. These are the principles of ethical living. Truth. Always tell the truth, except not to hurt, not to create violence, or violence being hurting people, harming people. Non-violence includes vegetarianism, not to harm the animals. It includes humility, not to be so proud because we've got gifts. Just be humble. You have the gift. Be thankful you got the gifts. Have gratitude. Purity, not to live a pure life, which also includes chastity, except to have children. We shouldn't waste our energy, in other words, on things that don't, anyway, that's another story. And selfless service and meditation. Those are the ethical principles promoted by the science of spirituality. And to work for our living. Okay, let's do some meditation. I don't know how long we'll meditate. We'll just meditate. The instruction is very simple. Get comfortable. Any position is okay, but what's preferred is just sitting, because how can you maintain the longest posture still? You want to be totally still. We close our eyes gently. We're fully alert but relaxed, and we look forward with our attention into the middle in front of us. We're totally still, don't move. And we look with effortlessly and constantly. And we mentally repeat something, whatever turns us on spiritually or ethically. So I chose love for atheists, and I chose I love God for myself or for you. But you could say Jesus Christ if that turns you on, or whatever. So let's meditate for a little bit. We'll see how long. Okay. Okay, I was saying I love God 20 times in my head. I counted. Then there's another meditation, so that's the looking meditation. And then we stop the mental repetition of the mantra, and we keep our attention at the third eye, and we listen to the sound coming from above. Okay, a taste of looking and listening meditation you just had. Let's put this down. So what is the purpose of life? Do you know? I have a couple of signs on that to continue the spiritual approach. The purpose of life. Is to awaken love through proper meditation. And to do selfless service. Service without expecting any rewards, in other words. So we go to sos.org and you get free initiation into meditation by Sant Rajinder Singh. He's in Chicago most of the time, or in India. And if you can't go there, they have about 1,400 centers throughout the world, and one of his representatives in one of the centers can initiate you if you're willing to become a vegetarian and not use drugs or alcohol and work for your living. I got another sign on what makes happiness. Okay, the key to happiness. See, I once wrote this. Okay, we'll look at the other side too, maybe. The key to happiness. I say meditation, selfless service, and adjustment. See, meditation empowers us. Service, selfless service, creates harmony. And adjustment of our thoughts maintains inner harmony. We accept reality, adjust to it. Our thoughts related to unfulfilled desires need to be adjusted for happiness, which is not easy. Desire, as the Buddha said, is the cause of all suffering. Okay, there's other sides too. I don't know what the other side of this one was. I don't know. Oh, meditate. Okay, one on meditation. What's the other side of this one? Okay, about unconditional. I read this? Oh, maybe why not? I could take this, something I wrote. Do you know your purpose? Okay. We are here to awaken love through meditation. That's what the people have in their death experience. They realize all that really matters is to awaken love, or to have love. Then we become better integrated if we awaken love and be in harmony with ourselves. Love ourselves? We have to love ourselves in spite of our, not because of our knowledge, not because of our actions, but just because we are, that we be. We love ourselves just for being who we are. So it's not our actions we love. I'm just thinking about that in terms of to love everything, but not to love the actions of everything, just everything. the actions have to be the actions that create harmony we can love, and the actions that don't create harmony, we don't have to not love it. We have to correct those actions that are non-harmonious, that are harmful, in other words. Then we'll function better and be of service and filled with peace and joy. What more could you want than to have unconditional love in spite of what you do, in spite of what you know, but just because you exist. So that's an idea, to be cultivated, to love everything, but not to love all actions, just those actions that create harmony. Okay, so these are the ideas that I'm working on to promote. Maybe you can help me. Well, I have to meditate to awaken love. But you can help me mobilize for economic justice. That's what I'll be talking about the rest of the show. What is economic justice? And then if we work for economic justice, there's many aspects. There's income aspect, two aspects of income. One is a tax from the top shared with everybody else. And the other one is a mandate, not take a penny away of the income, but to require them to invest it in the solar energy future, starting with weatherization of their homes. So that's income. Then there's a tax on pollution, especially carbon dioxide, and that money can be used in many ways. I'm suggesting, like James Hansen, who was the director of the NASA Goddard Space Center and a professor at Columbia, he says it should be shared equally among all the people. Okay, and the tax should be raised. At $35 a metric ton of carbon dioxide, we would get $210 billion shared among 30 million people, is $700 per person. And in 4 years it would be raised to $115 a metric ton, according to Robert Reich, who was the Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton, and now a professor of public policy at the University of California, Berkeley. He says, he didn't say how many years, but I would say in 4 years you could raise it to $115 a metric ton. From this book here, he says it would raise $600 billion. If we share it equally among 300 million people, each person would get $2,000. That's a family of four would be making $8,000 in about 4 years. And the more important part of it is then solar energy and renewable energy would become more competitive than fossil fuels. We can tax what we don't want, which is fossil fuels, out of existence. So it's doable if we unite into 1, 10, 100 citizen network. Get 10 people in a week, or a day, even an hour could be done, or a month. And then in 2 weeks, or 2 days, or 2 months, 2 time cycles, you'd have 100 people. You could be a student and do this to promote economic justice. There's the income aspect, there's the pollution, getting rid of carbon products, taxing carbon dioxide. You don't want something to tax it out of existence, or tax it into submission. And then there's wealth. We could tax wealth and pay off our national debt. The rich ought to have paid off the debt, but they didn't. They accumulated enormous wealth. $21 trillion from 98 to 2007 from the Survey of Consumer Finances. And now they got about $42 trillion. We'll know in about March or April of 2002. We'll know the 2010 figures every 3 years. They survey the country to see how the wealth is distributed. Top 10%. of households have currently about $42 trillion. And the bottom 90% have less than $12 trillion. So the top 10% got $30 more trillion. And we own $15 trillion. They could easily pay off the national debt. But it'd be too much of a shock to do it all at once. Let them do it gradually. In other words, 2% of 42 trillion would be $840 billion every year. And they were able to accumulate every year when they were accumulating $2.33 trillion. So they'd still be able to accumulate another $1 trillion or more every year, as well as paying off our national debt, which could be done assuming they accumulated nothing and they just had the 42 trillion and just made every year $1 trillion. In 18 years we could pay off our national debt. We could even do more. We could require the wealthy to invest. But some of this stuff would require amendment to the Constitution, which could be done if the people, 1, 10, 100. In 2 cycles, 2 time cycles, could be 2 weeks. You got 100 people, you got a winter on a network. In the 3rd cycle, it's 1,000. 1, 10, 100, 1,000. In the 4th cycle, it's 10,000. In the 5th cycle, it's 100,000. In the 6th cycle, it's 1,000,000. 10 to the 6 is 1,000,000. And then in the 9th cycle, 10 to the 9 is 1 billion people in the 9th cycle by tens. And if you only go by threes, 1, 3, 9, 27. First cycle, 3, 9, 27, 81, 243. Fifth, in the 17th cycle, it's 129 million people united. That could be in 17 hours. In 19 hours, or 19 cycles, it's over 1 billion people united, the whole world. For what? Economic justice. On income, on pollution, on wealth. We could cap wealth relative to everybody else. In other words, so in cases of hyperinflation, we wouldn't wipe out the relationship between the, how many times the median to get $20 million. That should be maybe 10 million should be invested in a treasury bond. I think currently it's about 2% a year. So for 30 years you can get $200,000 without working. Well, the average or median person is making 50,000, family making 50,000. So, and then they still got $10 million to buy a yacht, to buy a decent condo, or rent a decent apartment. And and Bill Gates has a tax of $1 million, real estate tax. So he may be grandfathered in, maybe. But that's a more drastic idea to cap wealth. And some people want to cap income, but I would just cap wealth. So those people who have over $20 million, the excess money should go into investments of small businesses, but they couldn't capitalize on it. And those who have businesses and run businesses, they could still run the business, but they can't take out more money than the $20 million. That's just an idea of capping wealth. That doesn't have to be done, but it's a possibility. If we were united, we could amend the Constitution. I call that economic justice. We've got about 4 minutes left to go. Or 3 minutes, I should say. Okay, let me put up my email address. Also, I have something here. You can share my videos. I'm going to put up this video on YouTube. Go to YouTube DK1Seed. I put it in today and they came back with nonsense. Normally they come back with my websites. So you got to be careful. Anyway, maybe a capital T, YouTube DK1Seed, and you could promote this to your contacts. Or you could email me at dkseed@gmail.com. I have something here that got lost. Okay. And you can email it to your contacts. But this is more important, what I'm going to show you now. So I'm looking for a soulmate to collaborate with, or anybody who wants to collaborate. I like to educate students. If you want to come on my show and maybe teach me something, but I'd like to teach you math. Constant rates, not well understood by teachers, math teachers, because it's used in science more, in chemical engineering, and chemistry, and physics. So if you want to help my show, you can contact me at dkc@gmail.com. And you get back automatically a leaflet on Robert Reich right now, and I'm going to develop that into a more general one, and my modification of his ideas. You can email me or snail mail me at P.O. Box 2866, New York 10163. 10163. So we got about 45 seconds to go for this show. So if you want to be on my show and learn some math and maybe some science and do some writing, contact me at dkseed@gmail.com, and we will transform this world to a beautiful place of peace, joy, and prosperity for all. So we just got a few more seconds and I'll say have a great day and a Merry New Year for this coming. Bye-bye.